When we experience negative emotions, we feel this almost primal instinct to want to run away from it, to distract ourselves with pleasure, to deny the presence of that feeling. But what if I told you that the act of running away from your negative feelings is not only keeping it there in the process, but it's robbing you of the potential of healing from it? It's a completely counterintuitive way of thinking that if a negative emotion arises, the way to respond to that emotion is to soften into it and to allow it to be there. It goes against everything in our minds to hear such a thing. Because when we feel that negative emotion, we want to get our asses out of it. We want to not be feeling it. And the way that we all go about trying to get out of that negative emotion takes place in a myriad of different ways. But the ways that we often go about trying to get out of our negative states often just mires us deeper and deeper and deeper into experiencing negative states. It was Albert Einstein who said, "You cannot solve a problem with the same state of mind that created it." So when you're feeling a negative emotion, you are in a negative state. You are feeling negativity. And the product of that negative emotional state is negative actions, negative thinking. This is why it's so important to pay attention to the state you're in. Because when we feel a negative emotion, it's dropping us down into a lower vibration where our actions will be equal to that negative state. But what I want to emphasize in this video is that there is the possibility and the capability to soften into the negative emotional state to such a degree that the presence of it is no longer even negative. And also, by softening into that negative emotional state and allowing it to be there, you begin to learn from these negative emotions to such a degree that it's not even bad that it's there, and it actually turns out to be beneficial for your growth. Now, there is no denying there is no shortage of negative emotions that we all experience. To be completely honest with you guys, right now in my living situation, I'm going through some pretty wild stuff. Like, I'm not gonna be here in this environment for much longer. I'm gonna leave out some details, but to be completely honest, I'm being kicked out of where I live by my family, and there's a lot of like sinister, dark, negative, nasty stuff going on. And what this is bringing up in me is an onslaught of negative emotions and negative sensations, and what comes with that, negative thinking, negative models of thinking. I can feel myself sort of hardening and bumping up against that negativity with frustration and anger and fear and paranoia and anxiety and sadness and all this negative stuff. But see, here's what I can see. I can see that the negative emotion is a natural response to the situation I'm in my life right now. But what I do have power over is my relationship to the negativity. Yesterday, I was at work and I had I was sassy all day. I was in a pretty negative mood. I was very down, and I didn't know why I was down. I was just feeling like crap, you know? I was in a bad mood, as we call it. And of course, I'm over here, I talk about all this stuff on my channel, and I was practicing what I preach. I was saying, allow, I need to let this be here. This is here to teach me and all this stuff. But when you're in a bad mood, it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. And when I say it doesn't really work, what that's insinuating is by me allowing, I'm trying to get out of it. I'm trying to push it away. By allowing, that's a roundabout way of saying, I don't want to feel this and I shouldn't be feeling this. And I have all these feelings of, oh my God, I'm far too spiritual to feel anger and negativity. I shouldn't be feeling this. This is bad. I need to get out of this. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to think positive thoughts. I'm going to have positive affirmations. I'm going to focus on, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to distract myself with videos and all this stuff. Even though I teach all this stuff, I'm just like you. But see, yesterday I had this sort of revelatory moment where I realized, okay, so I feel like crap right now. There's no denying that. I feel in a negative state. But do I have to relate to that negativity with more affirmations of negativity? Do I have to relate to the pain and the negativity with more pain and negativity? And what I realized is no, I don't have to, and neither do you. But see, it goes completely against the grain of our intuitive, rational way of thinking, where when you feel negativity, it completely transforms your state of mind, where you start thinking negatively and acting negatively and being rude to people and talking down on yourself and doubting yourself and feeling frustration and fear and paranoia and this onslaught of negative emotions. But what's in your power is the way in which you relate to that negativity. And what I did yesterday was as I said a moment ago, I began to soften into it. I began to soften into that negative state that I was in. I said, okay, I feel negative, but do I have to feel negative for feeling negative? And what I realized was no. And I began to sort of allow that state to be there. I said, okay, I'm negative. I don't feel good right now. I'm not pushing it away. I'm not denying it. I'm not distracting myself from it. Let's just be negative. Okay, I feel negative. And what results naturally from responding to the negativity in that fashion is the negativity starts to loosen. It starts to soften. And the reason that is because the reason the negativity is so negative is not because it's so objectively horrible, but rather it's our relationship to it. The story we're telling ourselves about it. I shouldn't be in this. This is so bad. I need to get out of this. This will never go away. When that's what you're thinking, it creates a negative oscillation that keeps the fire of that negativity going. But when negativity arises, whether that be depression, sadness, anxiety, anger, frustration, confusion, insecurity, whatever, you name it, whatever your negative state is, this act of responding to it with a zero resistance still remains the same. And when you stop resisting the negative state, it allows it to pass through you. Because that's what emotions are. Emotions are energy in motion. They want to move. That good mood you were in yesterday, is it still there? Maybe. That bad mood you were in 2 years ago, is that still there? Probably not. Emotions move. Emotions, moods, states of being move. And what's in your power is not necessarily the emotions that are coming up in every moment, because the emotions are like a river moving through the vessel of your being. But what you are in control of is, I'll say it again, the way you relate to it in every given moment. The way I often think about these negative states is what we are as human beings, as these vessels of consciousness, of existence. We're sitting in a room, and on either sides of the room, there's 2 open doors. And our emotions and our states and our thinking, our thoughts, are like people walking through the room. In one door and out the other. They're just on their way. And when a positive emotion arises, it's like a person walking through the room that you like. And rather than letting them go, you grab onto them and say, hey, don't go. Can you stay here? I want you to stay here. Please don't go. How did you get here? How can I make you come more often? And they say, listen, hey man, I'm moving. You gotta let me go. So the positive person keeps going. And then, when a negative emotion arises, it's the equivalent of somebody you don't like walking into the room. Now, if somebody you don't like walks into the room and they're on their way out, what should be your response to it? You should let them go, right? You should let them walk through the room. But when a negative emotion arises, aka when somebody we don't like walks into the room of our body, the way we often respond to it is they come into the room, and instead of letting them go, which is what they're naturally doing, that's the natural course they're on, is moving through you. Instead of doing that, what we do is we get up and we grab onto them and we say, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. What did I do to make you be here? I hate you. You shouldn't be here. It's not good that you're here. And what you're doing by reacting to the negativity in that way is prolonging their presence in your life. They were on their way out. But your obsession with the presence of that negative emotion and resisting their presence caused them to be there longer. They were on their way out, bro. They don't want to stay. We don't want to be stagnant with any sort of energy. Energy is to be moved. Energy is like water. When it sits in one place, it goes bad. And that's why the natural flow of things is flow. It wants to move. It wants to move through you. But see, when a negative emotion arises and our relationship to negativity is to fight it, resist it, deny it, distract ourselves from it, we prolong the process of that emotion moving through us. It's about moving from, like our negative emotions, and emotions as a whole for that matter, is like a fire going. And when you're in a negative state, and you start going on this whole goose chase about how do I get out of this? This shouldn't be here. What did I do to get here? How do I move myself through this? This is horrible. I'm going to do something to distract myself. All of that mental activity, all of that mental momentum and inertia of the mind is resistance. And it's like putting wood on the fire. It's putting wood on the fire. You're feeding it. You're keeping it going. It's like an intrusive thought. When you have an intrusive thought and you think to yourself, oh my God, don't think that, don't think that. You can just count on it coming up again. Because the resistance, for some reason, causes it to keep coming up. It was Carl Jung who said, what you resist persists. When you resist your negativity, it keeps coming up. The negativity is trying to teach you. And something I've realized is that I'd say about 80% of our suffering and our negative emotions and our negative states and the negative circumstances of our life are completely unnecessary. The remaining 20% of the negative states are natural. They're a natural part of life, of grief and fear and anxiety and growth. Growth isn't often easy. Growth isn't often beautiful. It can be dark, scary. You think about a seed. The environment that a seed is in prior to germinating is dark, cold, nasty, wet, scary. It's alone, it's isolated. But that's just the medium that's necessary for the growth to take place. Now, if the seed were to despise that medium and try to get itself out of it, the seed says, no, I'd rather be in a warm, dry, beautiful, light environment. It wouldn't grow. It wouldn't grow. So 20% of the suffering we experience is not only natural, but it's functional. And it's functional in the sense that it grows you. The 80% of our suffering is, like I've been stating, our relationship to the suffering, where we experience a state, a negative arising emotion. Somebody we don't like walks into the room, and what we do is we resist it. We tighten up against it. We constrict ourselves against it. We say, this shouldn't be here. And all that does is make it more and more worse. The emotion wants to move through you. Now, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of discipline and a lot of wisdom and maturity, emotional maturity at that, to allow these emotions to move through you. Now, let me stress again that when you're in a negative state, your thoughts, feelings, and actions will be equal to that negative state. And that's what's so horrendous about these negative states, is that when we haven't cultivated the space of allowance within ourselves, when we feel negative emotions, it causes us to act in negative ways. And by acting in negative ways, we attract and manifest more things that create negative emotions. It's a negative feedback loop. So this is why it's so critical to practice allowing, let go. Stop resisting. If you're familiar with this channel, the metaphor that I often use is the resistance that we apply to our emotional states is like that of taking a bouncy ball and pushing it underwater. As you push the bouncy ball under the water, there's more and more resistance. It wants to come up. And the bouncy ball at the top of the water is like a positive state, and it's naturally positive. Take note of that as well. The bouncy ball at the top of the water is your natural state. It's positive, light, harmonious, in flow. It's easy going. And then when a negative emotion comes up, it's like pushing that ball under the water. And there's all this resistance. This shouldn't be here. Why are you here? You need to go away. What did I do to deserve this? I hate this. All sorts of resistance and negativity. And you push that ball deeper and deeper underwater. And the deeper you push that ball underwater, the more resistance there is against you. The more you resist your emotional states, the more they push back against you. We start to become, it's like this negative, like I said a moment ago, this negative feedback loop where you get sad because you're sad, or angry because you're angry, or depressed because you're depressed, or scared because you're scared. That secondary fear, that secondary response is not necessary. That's you reacting to the emotional state in a negative, distorted way. Now, to go back to the bouncy ball analogy, when you push that ball into the water, when you resist your emotional states, it's creating more and more pushback against you. It creates all sorts of tension and constriction and restriction within your body. Now, let me ask you this. What do you do to allow that bouncy ball to come back up into the natural state of positivity? You let go. You let go. You don't do anything. You stop doing. You stop trying. You stop fighting. You stop resisting. And the natural result in stopping resisting is the ball returns back to a state of positivity. Positivity is our natural state. We are organically well and happy and in peace and clarity and serenity. And when we experience negative states of thinking and negative feelings and cycles and patterns of being in a negative state, that is like a dissonance from our natural state. And you can be sure that the reason you're experiencing this pattern, maybe it's been going on for years for you, of this negative state, is because there is a distance between you and your organic, natural self. You're not responding to the moment and the experiences that are coming up in your life in a way that is free of resistance. You've been adding resistance and toppling more and more and more of it onto your life again and again and again. Now, the way out of this is to stop fighting, stop resisting, learning to allow the negative state. Because when you allow the negative state, so here's the thing. When we feel negative emotions and we fight against it, like I was saying in the beginning, it's like we're calling our body dumb. We're saying, you shouldn't feel this. This is bad that I'm feeling this. It's wrong that you're here. It's like somebody coming into your house and you say, you shouldn't be here, get out. And that creates this feeling of resistance within us, where we're calling ourselves dumb. We're saying, the fact that I feel upset, the fact that I feel angry, sad, scared, depressed, whatever, is wrong. So you're calling yourself dumb. But see, that emotion is arising in perfect correspondence with the way you've been living your life, the thoughts you've been thinking, the actions you've been taking, the way you've been talking to yourself and others. That emotional state is perfect in its presence. And see, when we can begin to cultivate the attitude of allowance and lack of resistance, that negative state that when it comes up, it automatically feels this feeling of it not being allowed to be there. When you start to allow it, the negative state comes up and it's really fierce and firm and stiff at first, and then it starts to go, oh, I'm allowed to be here. He's not fighting against me. She's not pushing me away. I'm allowed to be here. It's like when you have a kid and your kid is doing something that you don't want them to do, and you keep saying, don't do that, stop doing that, don't do that, and they keep doing it, and then you finally say, you know what? Just do whatever you want. You can do it, whatever. And then they don't want to do it anymore. That's like our negative states as well. When the negative emotion comes up and we say, go away, go away, go away, go away. When the intrusive thought comes up and we say, go away, it keeps it going. What you resist persists. But when you say, you know what? I am allowed to feel this. I am allowed to be in this state. The negative emotion no longer serves any sort of function. There isn't any resistance on your part. You get out of the way and it allows it to move through you. When you stop resisting, you begin to tell yourself, you begin to feel safe within your own body. Where when you feel anger, sadness, fear, insecurity, you no longer push it away. And here's what's far out. If you feel insecurity and you say, you know what? I feel insecure. What about it? That's confidence. Even despite the fact that you feel insecure, your very allowing of it to be there is true confidence. So you're not really insecure. But the confidence comes in allowing yourself to be precisely where you are. And when you feel anger, and instead of fighting it and pushing it away and pretending, no, I'm fine. Instead of pushing it away, you say, you know what? Yeah, I'm pissed off right now. What about it? Here we are. Here I am and I'm pissed. The anger doesn't have any fuel. It feeds off of your resistance. Our emotional states, negative emotional states, feed off our resistance. The negative emotions are a completely opposite end of the spectrum of positive, where positive feeds off lack of resistance. It's natural, where when you let go, the poles of your states move from negative into positive, from darkness into light. When you step back and you trust in your body and you trust in nature, in the way that it's all playing out, and you begin to play with the idea that these negative states are here to teach you, and if you can step back and allow them to be there, they will move through you quicker, and you will also gain the boons and the fruits of their lesson, of what they were there trying to teach you in the first place. Imagine that. Imagine your negative state right now, your depression, your fear, your insecurity, your anxiety, your rage and frustration and cynicism. Imagine that that's trying to teach you something. And you don't need to study it and inquire it and learn and engage with it in that kind of way. All you need to do to learn from it is step back and allow it to do what it's doing in your body. Allow it to be there. Honor your states. Honor your negative states. Right now, like I was talking about, the negative situation that I'm in my life, I can feel that natural inclination to want to fight and push against it. But instead of doing that, I feel I need to allow this. I need to soften into it, because my resistance is only going to make it worse for me and everybody else around me. So if I can allow and let go and, as I said, soften into it, it begins to allow me to feel safe within my own body. And by doing so, it serves no function in staying in a feedback cycle within my body. It allows me to work like a river. It just moves through you. And your job is to get out of its way and let it go. In my live stream just last night, somebody was asking me about this, of how do I deal with the anger? What do I do to, get rid of it? The idea is to stop trying to get rid of it. It's there for a reason, and the reason that it's there is in perfect correspondence to the way you've been living your life. So the way to get rid of it is get out of its way. Let it be there. Become curious about it. What's it like? How angry are you? What triggers it? What makes it worse? Where is it taking place in your body? Begin to become interested and fascinated in your emotional state. Stop being so quick to push it away. So my camera died, so now I'm inside, but that gives me an excuse to just keep going on talking about what I was talking about. The quicker you allow the emotional state, the quicker it will move through you. And when the negativity arises in your body and you resist it and you tighten up against it, it solidifies it into your system more and more. It creates this feeling in your body of insecurity, of agitation of the system, where when you fight against it, like I've been saying multiple times now, it's like telling yourself you're calling yourself dumb. You're saying, I shouldn't be feeling this. So when you feel anger and your response to that is not allowance and acceptance and compassion, but is rather, I shouldn't be feeling this. This is wrong that I'm feeling this. What do you think that creates in your body? What kind of emotional and energetic response do you think that elicits in your body? Where when you feel negativity, you say, this shouldn't be here. It creates more negativity. Now, a lot of what I'm saying here is very much so easier said than done. Because as I said in the very beginning, when we feel negative emotions, our immediate inclination is to run away from it. But we all spend far too much time running away from how we feel. An image that I've often shared in my videos is bison out in the tundra or wherever they live. When they sense a storm coming, do you think they run away from it? You know how birds fly away from the storm? Bison do not run away from the storm. Bison turn themselves, they aim themselves towards the storm, and they go right into it. Because the bison understands, firstly, it can't outrun nature, but also by going right into it, it moves through them quicker. It moves by them quicker. So when you feel a negative emotion, rather than running away, distract myself, or you know how that song comes on in the radio and it starts to bring up all this unprocessed emotion and unprocessed trauma, and you think, I shouldn't be feeling this. Oh my God, I gotta change the song. All you're doing is saving that trauma for later. You're postponing your healing process. You're prolonging the presence of that stuff within you. When a negative emotion comes up and you fight against it, you're pushing it back down inside you for later. You're saving some for later. It's like you have all this trash in your house, and the garbage man comes and says, hey man, I'm here to take all the garbage. And you say, no, I don't want you to take all the garbage because I don't want to go through the process of watching it go through my house. Leave it alone. I'm going to keep it down in my basement. The process of letting yourself feel what you're feeling isn't really positive feeling in the moment, especially when what you're allowing is that negative state. There's no getting around it. It feels like crap. It's not fun. You know, it involves allowing yourself, you know what? Okay, I feel like crap today. I feel like crap today. That was me yesterday. Northwood Sassy should have been my name. Northwood Anger. I was all upset and tight and frustrated and I'm at work and I don't want to be at work and I feel like crap, and like I said earlier, I'm too spiritual to feel anger. I shouldn't feel this. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not resonating on a positive level of frequency, you know? On and on and on, telling myself essentially in a roundabout way, I'm stupid for feeling what I'm feeling. But then I had that revelatory moment yesterday where I say, you know what? I'm allowed to feel this. I feel like crap. Okay, here we are. And what I started to realize when I started to become curious about the state that I was in was that it wasn't as bad as I was imagining it to be. I just felt these emotions inside me. And it wasn't feelings of positivity. It was negative, it was uncomfortable, it was tense, it was dense. But I noticed that my relationship to it was what was so bad and what was causing so much more tension. I forget who said it, but they said, we often suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality. And that's precisely what I'm saying here. When the negative emotion comes up, and we start thinking, oh my God, this is horrendous. How do I get out of this? I shouldn't be feeling this. I need to get out of this. I'm going to distract myself with all sorts of horrible things that are going to give me a short dopamine hit, and it's just going to prolong my process of healing. When we do that, we create so much more tension. And you start to notice that the way so many of us are living our lives is in a process of running from how we feel. The relationships you have, the job that you have, what you do on the weekends, what you think about, the music you listen to, the food that you eat, the things that you buy, the people that you talk to, is all a product, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, all of your external circumstances are a product of you running from feelings that you don't want to feel. It's like the bison running from the storm that it can't outrun. And it gets to the point where you want to ask yourself, how long are you going to run? How long are you going to live your life in this incessant running from reality? Because as you've heard it said probably, you can't run from your own head. You can't run from the way you feel. So when you decide to face that storm of the negativity, like me right now in this living situation, where I am right now, this is not going to be my reality very soon, for much longer. I'm not going to be in here anymore. I'm going to be somewhere else. I'm being kicked out of my home, and I don't know where I'm going to go, and I'm figuring that out, and it's kind of the idea of let go and let God. And you know what? Rather than, even though there's feelings of fear, the fear of the unknown and the feeling of abandonment, of being cast out by my family, and not knowing what's coming next, not knowing if I'll be able to, and all sorts of this stuff, you want to know what else is within me? Is a very deep-seated and visceral feeling of excitement. I'm so excited for what's to come. My life has changed so much within the past 6 months. And it all started when I began to own how I was feeling. I said, you know what? This is what I'm feeling. This is the state that I'm in. And I'm by no means perfect. When I get in a mad mood, I still run around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to get out of it. But it gets to the point after a period of time of running around to no effect that I start to realize, oh, right. I'm fighting how I feel, and by fighting how I feel, I'm prolonging its presence. And the second I step back, whether that be in meditation or just allowing myself to feel it, going on a nature walk, carrying on with my day in a state of allowance and lack of resistance, the second I start doing that, my body begins to feel safe in what it's feeling. It begins to feel right. I'm not calling myself dumb. I'm not calling myself wrong. I'm saying, you know what? You can feel what you need to feel. Because as I've stated multiple times in this video now, the emotional state that you're in is in perfect correspondence to the thoughts and actions you've been taking. The thoughts you've been thinking and the actions you've been taking. You know? We think in all these negative, horrible, horrendous ways and act in all these negative ways, and then we have the audacity to be surprised when we don't feel good inside. But see, what's required is not a change on the outside. It's not about getting more money or getting a relationship or moving or quitting your job or buying more stuff at the mall. It's not about that. This life is so much more deeper than being able to fix it with something on the outside. This life demands you to stand up and own your power. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize for you in this video, is you are far too strong to keep running away from your feelings. You don't have to. I forget who said it, but they said, you finally hurl yourself into the abyss and then realize that it's a feather bed. Your feelings want to be felt. That's what they are. They're called feelings. They're not called not feelings. They're not called denials. It's about feeling what you're feeling in every single moment. And when you begin to allow what you're feeling, you step aside. You trust in nature. You trust in the inherent wisdom of reality that what you're feeling makes sense. It's allowed to be there, and you trust that it will transform itself naturally the second you get out of its way and allow it to do what it needs to do, because it's there for a reason. When you keep running from your feelings, from the negativity, you never learn the lesson. If that song comes on and you keep skipping it, you're missing the fact that the feelings that are coming up in response to that song is you healing. It's like when you have a cold and you feel all inflamed and a fever and sweating and you feel like crap. That's all your body healing. Healing isn't often fun feeling. That's why we don't do it. That's why we'd rather go out and take drugs and eat junk food and buy stuff and try to get all this status and all these people to tell us we're amazing. And we go jump from relationship to relationship, dopamine high after dopamine high, because we don't want to process what we know needs processing. We don't want to live in the reality of the fact that we are a sort of spiritually lopsided individual, where we're deficient in certain areas of our life. And the area that I'm talking about here is being deficient in the field of allowing what we're feeling. In Hinduism, there is something called tapas, which is essentially purification by fire, where you grow and become more spiritually awakened by the fiercity of life, by the ferociousness of life. And you think about gold. Tapas is essentially forging by fire, growing by fire. All the negativity you're feeling, your depression, your disillusionment, your anxiety, your fear, your insecurity, your confusion, your grief, all of that stuff is potential growth. But what it takes for you to transform that potential into a reality is to begin to play with the idea that that's why it's there, is to grow you. And when you think of gold, gold is forged in fire. But once it is gold, the fire doesn't do anything because it's already been completely purified. All the impurities are gone and burned off. And that's what we are too. When you begin to allow yourself to be forged by the fire of life, you begin to get purified much and much and much quicker. And then once you're purified, the fire serves no purpose. It doesn't need to be there anymore. Like I was saying, our negativity is a direct result and consequence of our distance from our natural state of being. What if I told you that you can be happy while being depressed? What if I told you that you can be calm while angry? What if I told you that you can be confident while being insecure? What if I told you that you could be trustworthy even in the face of the unknown? The emotions that you feel don't have any power over your relationship to them. And that is the main staple thing I'm trying to emphasize for you in this video, is that, yes, it's negative. It doesn't feel good. Life isn't about feeling good. But your relationship to that emotion is what's causing more or less unnecessary suffering. That's not only making it worse, but perpetuating it. Now, to bring up Hinduism one more time before I wrap this video up. In Hinduism, there is a goddess. Her name is Kali. I have a cat named Kali. I have statues of Kali in my room. I used to wear a necklace with Kali. Kali is the goddess to which I feel the highest affinity to. And this is because what Kali represents is everything I've been talking about in this video. All the horrible, horrendous, terrifying, dark, fearful, scary, everything bad. When you think of all the negative emotions and your negative states and your negative circumstances in life and the shitty hand you've been dealt in your life and all of that, that's Kali. Now you may ask yourself, why would I honor and love a goddess that represents everything that's horrible? The reason is, I find solace in being able to look at the negativity in my life as functional for my awakening. Right now, like I've been stating in the video of my living situation and how everything is kind of crumbling beneath my feet, I see this as Kali. This is a manifestation of God, a different face of God. We all want to think that God is the grace and the beautiful and the joyful and the bliss and the fun and the ecstasy and the awakening and the crystals and rainbows. But what if God is also the dark nights laying in your bed crying in fear and in depression and rage and loss and sorrow and horror? What if that's also God? That's a question that I'm asking you, but the way that I personally feel about it is most definitely God. And the reason I honor Kali so much is because Kali to me is a reminder that even in the face of chaos, it's God. It's all God. It's all God. And oftentimes, the darkness is often the greatest environment for my awakening. The unknown, the fear, the change, the turmoil, the chaos, the darkness is often a profoundly powerful environment for my awakening. And by putting a face to the horror and seeing it as the divine, It allows me to remain serene in the midst of it. It allows me to remain as sort of, you could think of it as the eye of the hurricane, where I see the horror and the chaos of my life as God. And it allows me to carry on in every single moment in allowance, not only allowance, but remembrance of God. That this too is God. God isn't just the light. God is also the darkness. So what I hope I've made clear for you in this video is that your negative state is functional in your development. But your relationship to the negativity is what could very well be dysfunctional and causing an unnecessary amount and presence of that negativity. And when you begin to trust and allow, and like the bouncy ball analogy, let go and stop resisting, you will come to find out very quickly that that negativity doesn't have to be there. You don't have to relate to the hardships and setbacks in your life in a way of resistance and fighting and pushing against and fear and denial and all that. You don't have to relate to the moment in that way. It is in your power to respond to anything and everything with grace, love, compassion, faith, and trust. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. And just to mention really quickly, I have a few slots left open in my free coaching sessions, where if you like this video, if you watch my channel and you like this content and you have something going on that you want to talk to me personally about, I'm offering completely free 1-hour sessions on Zoom, where if you go to the links at the top of my YouTube channel, you'll see something that says Beta Coaching Program, and it's in that link that you can sign up for a completely free session with me. This is a limited time offer and I'm not doing it very long, so if that resonates with you, if this calls to you in any kind of way, don't hesitate to reach out to me and I would be delighted to talk with you. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. Do me a favor and leave a like on this video before you click off, and if you like the content, subscribe to the channel. I post stuff like this every week, and I will see you all in the next video.